Hey Vault Dwellers, JV here, and today we're discussing what Bethesda needs to do to make Fallout 5 great. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more Fallout videos just like this. Huge disclaimer here, this video is being made on January 6, 2020. Fallout 5 is probably, most likely, multiple years away. Unless Bethesda surprises us and utilizes their new studios to speed up their development cycle, or there's a complete shift in the way they've done things since Fallout 3, we're just not going to see the next mainline Fallout game until after The Elder Scrolls 6. Not to mention, they're starting a new IP in their rotation with Starfield. So I'm not saying it won't happen, I'm saying it probably won't. Also, keep in mind this video is pure speculation based off of nothing but my own opinions. Since I believe Fallout 5 is so far off, this stuff is very broad. We are not diving into specifics like a perk chart or weapon condition or locations. We're gonna save that for when it's actually announced. Now that all of that's out of the way, let's dive in. Starting with the foundational things that I believe need to change, first and foremost is they need to figure out their voiced or non-voiced protagonist problem, because Fallout 4 just didn't work. I think that's been a popular opinion since it came out. The Sole Survivor didn't work because you were one of 4 characters in all of your dialogue, and none of them stood out. You were the dick, you were super nice, you were inquisitive, or you just wanted to get straight to the point. There were different shades of the same color, and none of them were that great. Logistically, it is so hard to do a voiced RPG character well without a ton of work, and we know they talked about how many recorded lines they had to make just for the work that they did in Fallout 4. It was a ton of work. It's not impossible to make this voiced RPG character work for most players, but it's very near impossible. Still, my money is on that they are going to stick to a voiced protagonist after the success of Fallout 4. It just makes sense for them to do that. But if they're gonna go that route, I think one of the only things they can do is to give us a character to play in Fallout. So it's gonna be like a Commander Shepard or a Geralt of Rivia. That is not gonna be a popular opinion, and I understand why. It's just that I think that's the way they need to go if they're going to keep it voiced. If they don't wanna do a voice protagonist, they wanna roll things back to how it was before, they need to do a silent protagonist because that maximizes player agency and immersion. It still works. We saw Obsidian do it with the Outer Worlds. It's not like that formula doesn't work in 2020 and beyond. I think it's very difficult to have it both ways, to dip your toes in the RPG. We're gonna make an RPG where we want people to create their own character and be who they wanna be, but also have the player voiced. It's very difficult. I think the most likely outcome here is they're gonna do the same thing. I don't think they're gonna make this change if I'm being completely honest, but hopefully they learn from 4 and give us more variety with the options. This one is no secret, but I think it needs to be said over and over until it happens. For the love of God, please overhaul this Gamebryo modded engine. The creation engine needs to go, full stop. Just no excuses, get a new engine, invest in new tech. Bethesda has made so much money. We chronicled the last decade, looked back and saw that Bethesda was massively successful in the past decade. So there's a lot of money in the Bethesda coffer right now. They need to invest in some new tech and do not start with Gamebryo as the foundation. I wish I had something more technical to back up my opinion here, but game development is not one of my specialties. All I know is that this engine is not equipped to deliver a next-gen experience, especially for the next Fallout game. It's very prone to instability, to bugs, and it seems for Bethesda that they're unable to address them in a timely enough manner. There were so many bugs in Fallout 4 that were not fixed for months and months, and there are some still remaining in the game to this day. As we go into this next decade, we're going to become more and more connected. This stuff is going to be revealed and talked about nonstop. It's going to continue to hurt Bethesda's reputation. So please rip this Band-Aid off as quickly as possible. Overhaul this engine, use something new. If you need to replicate what you had before, do that, but don't start with Gamebryo as a foundation because that foundation is extremely shaky. The next thing Bethesda needs to learn, especially if they're going with the voice protagonist, is take a lot of notes from CD Projekt Red. I'm sure they've been doing this, but continue to do that and actually implement them into the next Fallout game. There's a reason that The Witcher 3 is celebrated as one of the greatest RPGs of last generation and of all time. Personally, it was one of the most memorable and impactful experiences I've ever had with a video game, and that's due to their approach to quest design and storytelling. It's always branching, there's always a twist, nothing is as it seems on the surface, and Fallout is an absolutely excellent backdrop for them to tell stories, to weave these storylines and really create some memorable experiences for everyone. And another thing that I think Fallout 4 went in the wrong direction for is the overall tone and aesthetic. I think that Fallout is meant to be very bleak, very hopeless. The Witcher 3 is very hopeless. I mean, things are bad for a lot of people that you come across in that game. And that is one of the strengths that the Fallout series had before 4 and kind of went away from. This is gonna sound weird, but it needs to be horrific. It needs to be gruesome. It needs to go back to that feel. Do what they did in 3 and what Obsidian did in New Vegas. Make it feel dreadful. Make it actually feel like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Also, for the love of God, please do New Game Plus. Every single game has it now, and I've been consistently shocked throughout the years since Fallout 4 has come out that it's not in that game. Every single game has New Game Plus. It really extends the tail of the experience. Obviously, Fallout has mods, and that's great, that's fantastic. But think about the possibilities with Fallout New Game Plus, taking all of that gear and stuff that you earn, getting even better versions, taking all of your experience throughout the story, and doing it again from a different perspective. That sounds awesome to me. And I don't know how difficult that is to do, but every single game does it now. It can't be that hard. Next thing, Fallout really needs to figure out what they're gonna do in terms of a social experience with multiplayer or PvP. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I don't necessarily need or want PvP or multiplayer in a Fallout game, but I do not think it's impossible or improbable for the next Fallout game to have a drop-in, drop-out co-op mode like Borderlands. Why not? As long as it does not harm the integrity of the solo, solitary Fallout experience that we originally fell in love with, why not? Like most businesses, game development is about balancing resources. Where do they spend their time? Where do they spend their money on developing what kind of systems? That's something that they're constantly thinking about and constantly working towards. Fallout 76 is what happens, what we've observed to happen when Bethesda sinks so many resources into a social online experience with a Fallout flavor, a Fallout world. Obviously, I hope that is not the direction they're moving in with Fallout in the future as a whole. But I think it's naive to think that they are not going to add some sort of social component to the next Fallout game. And I think easily the best option, the lesser of all the evils, is to have drop-in, drop-out optional co-op. Rounding out my top 5 changes is for Bethesda to refine their DLC strategy. I think Fallout 4 continued to do it right, albeit not perfectly. I think people didn't really appreciate the smaller pieces of DLC. They wanted the big meaty chunks like Far Harbor and Nuka World. I think Automatron's a little underrated as well. I thought that was good, but the workshop stuff, the Vault Tech stuff, I don't think a lot of people enjoyed that as much as Bethesda would have liked. So I think if they dial it back and give us 4 large pieces of DLC for the following year after release, and then extend that for another year or indefinitely. I know that's a little unrealistic, but think about that. If Fallout 5 is anywhere near as successful as 4 was, and they just kept creating these chunk pieces of content, they're going to be cashing in from a business perspective. I think that has to be best case scenario, because I'm a little worried that they're going to be distracted by Fortnite, experiences like that where they're trying to deliver a ton of content post-release. I know Fortnite is way different than mainline Fallout and what we expect from a single player Fallout experience, but learn from the mistakes of games like Anthem. Do not try to ape these live service, always online experiences in terms of post-launch content strategy. Stick to what works, refine, and plan for the long term. And also something I should have mentioned earlier, make sure that mod support in the way that it is in the games right now on consoles, which is still really cool, by the way, that they were able to pull that off. Make sure that's in there on launch with Fallout 5 or shortly after, certainly within the first month of the game coming out, because all of this feeds into this idea that people are playing Fallout games for years. They're playing them for a long, long time. They're really fun to come back to after you've given the series a break. If Bethesda positions themselves in the right way, Fallout 5 could be massive. It could be another huge step forward for the series in the way that Fallout 4 was from 3 to 4, so it could be for 4 to 5. Before we close out this video, I just wanted to share some things that I think will happen whether we like it or not. I've been talking about things that I want to happen, changes that I think would be really great for the series from a broad perspective, but these 3 things, and I'm sure there are more, will happen in my opinion, whether we like it or not. And the first thing is I think there's going to be a voice protagonist. I think the Outer Worlds is a bit of a fake distraction in terms of people thinking that Bethesda is going to go back to a silent protagonist. I think Fallout 4, again, was just way too successful, and I think a lot of that is attributed to the voice protagonist. It's just more appealing to the casual crowd, the casual gamer, the vast majority of people who are going to be playing the game. I know some of you will vehemently disagree with me, so of course, let me know in the comments below if you do. The next thing that I think will return is Workshop. It's very shareable, creating something, the ability to make something within a video game world is very popular in gaming right now, and it's a trend that Bethesda went with Workshop mode in the first place in Fallout 4, and I keep seeing GIFs of Fallout 4 Workshop creations even in 2020, so you know that it worked when you keep seeing stuff like that, and it's something that people, not myself included, it's really not my kind of thing within a game, people really enjoyed Workshop mode, so I think that will be staying for sure. And then, as I mentioned before, some sort of online component will be in this game whether we like it or not, but hopefully it is optional. Hopefully it is something we are not forced into, and it's not, you know, the whole concept for the game surrounding Fallout is the fact that you're online and you're encountering other people like 76. Hopefully that is not the case. Overall, if I were to give Bethesda a game plan, something to keep in mind when developing Fallout 5, I would say you guys did a really good job with Fallout 4. These are just a few things you need to tweak, but do not abandon the general direction that you're going in, because 4 was great, a great solo, solitary, single-player experience. I think that's what the majority of people want. In the comment section below, tell me which changes do you think Bethesda needs to make for Fallout 5? What is going to improve this experience? What do they need to learn from 4 and take forward? Or what do they need to do entirely different? Share your thoughts below. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and remember to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss another video. Check the description for links to my social media and to join my community Discord server. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.